What is going on YouTube? Chrono here and welcome back to another PSO2 video. So today we're going to be talking about the new weapons that were released with the Aegis Falls fight. Yep, we're talking about the Neos Austrian weapons. But before we jump into that, guys, if you're new to the channel, my name is Chrono. I primarily cover PSO2 content. Would much appreciate subscribers work our way towards that 10k mark, hopefully by the end of this year. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So with the past week, Gunblaze weapons have been dropping like candy from the new combat zone, and much like a lot of other people, I was tempted to jump towards them. However, we knew that there was a good chance we had a new weapon coming out, seeing as we saw the update that I mentioned beforehand with that extra shop. We saw these Neos weapons and we're curious as to how strong could they actually be. Well, the verdict is out, and let me tell you, they are absolutely insane. So I'm going to be doing a couple comparisons, and I'll be leaving a link in the video description to the actual calculator, but the way we're going to be doing this today is we're going to be doing some comparisons versus Gunblazes as well as the Closius weapon, since that's what most people have moving into this update. But to properly understand that, we have to talk about the potentials of all of the weapons we'll be doing comparisons for. So to start things off, we're going to talk about the Closius weapon. So the Closius weapon's potential reads as follows. We have 19% potency and damage resistance plus 5%. And then versus dolls, we get an extra 5% damage resistance and an extra 6% potency, bringing us up to a whopping 25%. At plus 60, we've got a max of 746 weapon damage, which is very solid. And if you're collecting Infernium for your weapon, which you should be, I don't know if you can get this weapon any other way. I'm not sure why I mentioned that, but you'll have a Fixa attack 3. So by default, it's Fixa attack 3. This weapon doesn't drop anywhere, so it can only be Fixa attack 3, or you might be using a Fixa attack 1 or a base 1. But comparisons will be with the Fixa attack 3, since that's what most people should have by now. If you're someone who's a little bit late to the party and you just picked up one for 15 Infernium, don't worry too much about it. Just know that it's going to affect the calculations, and you may want to do some calculations on your own. Moving on, we have the Gunblaze weapons. So Gunblaze reads as follows. You have potency of 23%, PP consumption minus 20%, critical hit rate plus 10%, and this effect is lost when damage is taken. Specifically, the PP consumption and the critical hit rate, not your potency. Now, after you take damage, a cooldown starts for 15 seconds. After that 15 seconds is up, you get those extra effects back. It's worth mentioning, because a lot of people didn't know this, but if you take damage, you lose that extra, that bonus that we talked about, the PP consumption and critical hit rate for 15 seconds. If you take damage again during that 15-second time frame, you don't reset that 15-second timer. It's just one time, and then when the actual extra bonus is up, then you have a chance of losing it. People talk about this weapon like you have to be a god tier player to use it, and yes, you do have to not get hit all the time. However, most players aren't getting hit every 15 seconds to a point where they're actually surviving. A lot of times people are playing further away, or they're not step countering into everything. So a lot of times this potential's up more often than people want to say it's really going to be up. Realistically, for the average player, you're looking about 60 to 80%. For really good players, you're looking upwards of 90%, but it just depends on the situation. So at plus 60, we're looking at 752 weapon damage, which is pretty substantial. And for this comparison, we'll be actually looking at the potential while it's fully active. There's a reason for that because of how the comparisons are going to work for right now. But yes, we're going to be looking at full uptime with the potential, because it's kind of crazy how the comparisons work out. And last but certainly not least, we're on to the weapon of the hour, the Neos Austrian weapons. So these weapons' potencies read as follows. Potency is 32%, Photon Blast charge or Photon Blast gauge charge when attacking plus 25%, and PP consumption reduced by 15% for 90 seconds after using a Photon Blast. So basically, you've got 32% potency. You have that increase to generating your Photon Blast, and then after you use it, you have a 15% reduction for 90 seconds on all of your PAs, which is amazing. And it is sporting 761 base damage at plus 60, which is absolutely insane. Now, because of the way this weapon is acquired, seeing as you can't trade for it, it only comes from a drop from falls, getting Fixa on it can be kind of difficult to get the weapon you absolutely want, especially if you have to trade in a bunch of weapons to then trade for the weapon you want, because from the shop you can't get it with the Fixa, only as a drop specifically. People might be finding a hard time getting a hold of this weapon. But the crazy part is, we're going to show you some of these comparisons that's not going to matter in the slightest. So I'm going to talk about two comparisons. The first one we're going to do is compare to the Closius weapon with the doll's potential active at Fixa attack 3. For what it's worth, I did calculate these with my add-on skills as well as my augment setup. You're more than welcome to use your own and go through it on your own time, but realistically, this is going to be mostly close to the same. The only thing you're going to see a little bit of difference in variance has to do with Fatale and Termina based on your crit chance and crit damage, how much stronger those are going to be, but the numbers mostly line up anyway. So to start things off, we have a base Gunblaze compared to the Closius Doll's weapon at attack 3. You're looking at an increase in damage on the base Gunblaze, while its potential is fully active the entire time, mind you, by only a measly 0.21%. This is basically crit variance. So honestly, if you rock in a Closius Doll's weapon, you see the Gunblaze is cheap, don't really even bother unless you feel like you're going to play like a god and you need that extra little bit of damage. But let's say you skip Closius, it might not be a bad idea to pick up a cheap Gunblaze if you need something to tide you over till you can get your Neos weapon. Now, Gunblaze at Fatale 3, which realistically is what people are going to aim for if they're trying to get a decent Gunblaze. Usually you want to go for like Fatale specifically, since how strong Gunblaze's potential is with crit chance. You're looking at an increase of 5.72%. I am being kind of specific with these because some of these potential values are really, really low. So the point percentages actually do matter in some cases. I forgot to be consistent across the board. But yeah, Gunblaze of Fatale 3 is pretty solid. Now, what if you got lucky and you picked up the Neos of your dreams, or you got enough of them to trade in for a base Neos? Well, a base Neos Austrian weapon at full potential unlock, full upgrade, you're looking at an increase of 3.15% over your Closius weapon. It's a pretty solid increase, and this is at no Fixa versus a Fixa 3 weapon. Because of its potency and of course its base damage, it is insanely good. But notice it is lower than a Gunblaze at Fatale 3. We're going to talk about that more in just a second here. So just a quick little rehash. Gunblaze base, killing it. Pretty solid, but if you already have a Closius, I'd skip it. Gunblaze Fatale 3, this is like your main filler until you can get a decent Neos. You don't have to worry about base Neos being any good. You're solid here. And Neos at base, it's what you should go for if you have a Closius and you're really not, thinking you're going to get a Fixa, don't really care about CVs, or you just, you really want to get something new, right? Maybe you got lucky. It is worth upgrading to because it is actually good. On top of that, it's also not tied specifically to fighting dolls, so that is another bonus. Notice how I didn't include the Effulgent and the Tenebris series weapons at the moment because as they stand right now, they have essentially or effectively been benched. Unless SEGA decides to upgrade their potential to level 5, they just don't have enough power to realistically even consider once you have your Closius upgraded properly versus Falls. I mean, yeah, if you don't have the Gunblaze or the Neos, you can definitely upgrade your previous weapons, the Effulgent and the Tenebris, to plus 60 and still use them with the Closius comparison, but as soon as you move past that, there's no reason to continue to use them, so I didn't even bother personally. Moving on, we have our next comparison. So the next comparison we're going to be doing is a Gunblaze at Fatale 3 versus the Neos Austrian weapons. So at first we're going to look at a base Neos Austrian or Neos A, and we are behind the Gunblaze Fatale 3 by 1.88%, so roughly 2% behind. However, that's where things start to change. With at least one Fixa attack, you're already matched slightly ahead of Gunblaze Fatale 3 by 0.08%. When we have Termina 1, we're ahead by 0.2%. And then when we have Fatale 1, we're ahead by 0.8%. So yeah, any Fixa on a Neos already beats out a Fatale 3 Gunblaze. Now, granted, yeah, Fixa Attack 1 being the worst of them, if you actually have add-ons, Fixa Attack gets a little bit more mileage if your crit chance and crit damage aren't really that high on your add-ons. So like, say maybe you haven't rolled any of yours yet for some strange reason, then yeah, Attack gets a bit more mileage. But once you have rolled them, then Termina and Fatale tend to push ahead because of the way that crit actually ends up working out. Essentially, if you can get a Fixa on any of your Neos weapons, then you're pretty much good to go over a Gunblaze. If you're one of those crazy people that happen to get a hold of a Fatale 5 Gunblaze, you probably are not watching my video. You probably understand how strong that actually is. But in case you're curious, I suppose I can go ahead and include that as well. So this is going to be a bit of bonus information, but to beat out a Fatale 5 Gunblaze at full uptime, you only need at least an attack Fatale 3. You need an attack 3 Neos, a Fatale 2 Neos, or a Termina 2 Neos. And the Termina 2 Neos basically just about matches. The Fixa attack 2 falls a little bit behind, so you need to go up to Fixa attack 3, and then the Fatale 2 basically just more or less blows it out of the water. So more at that point, realistically speaking, if you get somewhat lucky with your Fixa on your Neos, then you can pretty much put the Gunblaze to bed. Keep in mind, these were all comparisons at full uptime. Most players are going to have roughly 80% uptime or less. So yeah, these weapons are insane. And that's it. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys in case you're curious of when you should upgrade, what you should upgrade to, and what you should hold out on, and maybe see if you can get something a bit better. I know myself personally, I'm still using my Closius at the moment, so as soon as I get a hold of 2 Neos, I basically need Soaring Blades and Jet Boots to multi together. I may go ahead and pull the trigger and go ahead and upgrade my weapon. I really would like to hold out on the CV because I heard the CV is black and red. If you guys have seen it or you happen to have a screenshot of it, feel free to send it to me in Discord. I really want to see those. But I probably won't get a hold of a CV before I'm ready to go ahead and set up a new weapon, because running Closius attack 3 is kind of annoying. I'd really like to get something that's going to be beneficial for a lot of other pieces of content, so I want to go ahead and jump directly into that as soon as I possibly can. But at this point, we're rambling on. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to toss them in the comments below, or feel free to jump into Discord and DM me directly. I'd be more than happy to take a look at anything you guys might have that you want me to go ahead and answer for you. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to keep up with more, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. Peace out.